the Colnago Y1RS.
And the brand new V5RS. Two of the most sought after superbikes on the planet, and we are going to put them head to head. It must be hard being Tadej Pogačar.
We're not talking about the unruly hair that refuses to be tamed.
Nor that no one wants to go riding with him, because he's too fast.
We're not even talking about the weight of his Richard Mille watches dragging him down.
No, we're talking about having to make this decision every time he rides a bike. Which Colnago do I use today, a Y1RS or a V5RS?
And seeing as both of our bikes have been kitted out with Team Spec Enve wheels, well, that adds another dimension to our choices too.
It's a miracle he ever gets out training, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tadej, my friend, don't worry. We are here to help.
Is he really your friend?
No, but I expect he would be. He feels like the kind of guy that would just be friendly.
With everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we dive in, let's give you a bit of backstory. Colnago is a prestigious Italian bike brand that has long been famous for three things: cutting-edge tech, heart-stoppingly beautiful bikes, and winning races. Lots of races. In the beginning, they had Merckx, the greatest male racer of all time. And now they have Pogačar, on a trajectory to quickly become the new greatest of all time. And that's not to mention the 55 or so years in between the two goats, where Colnago had a pretty good run too. This pedigree is no more evident than here in these two bikes we have before us. Cutting-edge tech, all-conquering team bikes of UAE, and, to our minds, pretty bloody good-looking too.
The Y1RS is definitely an incredible-looking bike. It's unique, like an Italian hypercar, all angles and aggression, but with a clear underlying purpose. It's designed to be as aerodynamic as possible and as stiff as a very stiff thing.
On the other hand, the V5RS, at first glance, looks a little bit more conservative. When weight and stiffness are two of your most important metrics, then your design hand is a little bit more constrained. But you don't have to look too closely before you realise that this too is at the absolute cutting edge. Its predecessor, the V4RS, has won almost literally everything there is to win. And so what have Colnago done to improve it? We'll get onto that in a minute.
It's been a while now since we've had an aero bike and a lightweight bike head-to-head. This is in part because the message and the importance of aerodynamics is now widely accepted, and also in part due to the fact there aren't actually very many lightweight bikes, and almost all of them try to be aerodynamic to some degree too.
Yeah, aero-ish, definitely. Now, few are quite as successful, both on paper and on the racetrack, as this one. So Colnago say that in the wind tunnel, at 50k an hour, the old V4RS needed 415 watts. That's at 0 degrees of yaw. This new one, 406 watts. Alex's Y1RS, just 395 watts.
Now that might not sound like much, but at 50 kilometers an hour, this new bike could have you riding below your threshold, whereas the old V4RS could push you into the red.
Yeah, so think successful hour-long breakaway versus a doomed 20-minute one. We've tried to see whether we can measure the difference on the open road, riding at 400 watts and seeing what the difference in speed is between the two bikes on this section. Predictably, in the real world, it's much messier than the wind tunnel, but the Y1 did seem to consistently be about 0.2k an hour faster. Although, that is with the added benefit of slightly narrower bars and the deeper Enve 6.7 wheels as opposed to the 4.5s on the V5RS. Although, we'll find out in a moment which wheels the UAE teams tend to use. We also thought it'd be quite fun to see whether or not it would be possible to get a faster top speed, maximum speed on the Y1RS compared to this V5RS. In theory, you'd think that would be the case. 58, did you hear that? That looked quite fast.
It just clicked to 59 as I came past you. I mean, it felt fast.
Life in the old dog yet?
A little bit. On the bike now?
Go for it. Looking good, looking good.
58.
58. There we go.
Okay. This bike I was hovering 58, 59, and this I'm more like 57, 58.
There we go. Scientific proof.
Science.
Feel free to do your best in the comment section.
Okay, so in the speed test, we got a clear winner. However, I do want to point out that is an aerodynamic lightweight bike, not a lightweight aerodynamic bike.
That's right. Now, the difference in the weight of the frame and forks is 395 grams. I want to weigh both of these things, okay? So, bottles off.
Yeah. Head
Units on. Now, you've got more battery charge in your head unit, so it's going to weigh a little bit more.
7.26.
7.26 with head unit and pedals. It'd be pretty darn easy to build this up to less than 6.8 kilos, wouldn't it?
I think it would be, yeah. Right.
Now you've got the deeper 6.7 wheels.
You have to help me out, I can't read it.
Whoa, 7.96.
I've got a bigger bike as well.
You have. So actually...
Is what it is.
What's the difference? 7.96 is, so it's about...
This
600 grams.
This is when I really wish I paid more attention in maths.
Some people are just good at that shit. So what difference does that 700 grams make in the real world then? Well, at Tadej Pogačar speeds on Alpe d'Huez, this bike would be about 20 seconds faster than the Y1RS. Now that's perhaps enough to win or lose a stage, if not the entire Tour de France. However, for a fast amateur, you're looking at maybe 27 seconds across Alpe d'Huez, which is probably not enough to get too upset about when you check your Strava after your ride. When you look at it, an aero bike will almost always win out as the logical choice because it's faster more of the time. But that doesn't tell the whole story. There is a reason why bikes like the V5RS exist and are truly loved.
The fact is, in a pro race, weight does still matter. And to the rest of us, well, it still matters. And this is partly down to the fact that we can feel it. We can feel it when we get our bike out of the garage or carry a bike out of the apartment, and you can feel it when you're out on the road accelerating. Now, this is the lightest frame Colnago have ever made. 685 grams for the frame, 1,027 grams for the frame set, which is 146 grams lighter than the V5RS.
Meanwhile, to help with aerodynamics, Colnago have reduced the frontal area of this bike by 13% compared to its predecessor. And in fact, the area now is closer to the Y1 than the V4. And whilst normally reducing weight and improving aerodynamics would lead to problems with stiffness, in this case, Colnago say that they've maintained the levels from the V5RS, a bike that was clearly stiff enough. And they've done that, they say, by raising the seat stays and refining the bottom bracket seat tube junction. Arguably then, it might create less of a dilemma for poor old Tadej Pogačar, given that the V5RS is even lighter and even more aerodynamic than his all-conquering V4RS. But we're not only going to talk pro racing, because if you're 65 kilos and producing 500 watts for close to eternity, it means that your bike is going to be travelling quite a bit faster than normal when you pedal it. So is faster different for the rest of us?
As a case in point, I was talking to Enve the other day and they explained how when building their wheelset calculator for the UAE team, the riders are almost always best off using the 4.5 wheelset. Unless you've got a 14% uphill time trial, that wheelset is broadly speaking going to be the fastest overall setup. It offers 97% of the aerodynamics of the deeper 6.7 wheelset, but with improved handling characteristics.
The 4.5s that we have on the V5RS are 50mm deep at the front and 56 at the back, plus 25mm wide internally. The 6.7s on the Y1, meanwhile, are 60 and 67mm deep, and 23mm wide internally. Now that reduction in depth of the 4.5s makes the wheel a little more reactive to steering input and a little more stable in crosswinds. The difference in weight, meanwhile, is fairly minimal. Both sets are light, just 1,432 grams and 1,457 grams respectively. However, Enve also say that for regular folks riding at 30 or 35k an hour, there's a different wheel set entirely that might be the best option. The 3.4, which is 39 and 43mm deep, is even lighter and at lower speeds potentially the fastest all-round option. Now, to my mind, the same principles can be applied to these two bikes too. So the V5RS has much of the aero gains of the Y1RS. In fact, they were both honed with the same CFD software that was created with and for Colnago by boffins at Khalifa University and Politecnico Milano. It's a good fact for you there.
And if we look at these lower speeds again, let's say 35 kilometers an hour, the difference between these two bikes is just 4 watts. Now that's not to be sniffed at, but less likely to make or break your day. And the upside of that is not just the weight, but is it also the handling characteristics too?
Yes, now it would be impossible to quantify, hard even to qualify, but it's still really important, and that's the way a bike feels to ride. So you can tell that there's an extra ounce of speed that comes from a well-spec'd aero bike with fast wheels and fast tyres like that one. But by being so aero, it does also change the way the bike feels to ride.
The Y1RS wants you to ride faster. It wants you to push power on the pedals, and it does feel amazing. But let your foot off the gas a little bit, and it does start to feel a little bit less rewarding.
Now with the V5, you don't get that. It still feels good, even at lower speeds. Now don't get me wrong, I love aero bikes. That extra little bit of speed is absolutely addictive. But by being so aero, just like with the wheels, it changes the handling characteristics. Aero bikes feel like aero bikes. Now for some, that's going to be absolutely what you want. But I wonder whether for others, that extra little bit of speed might not be worth it. On a bike like the V5RS though, its geometry and handling mean that while still super fast, it also makes me want to ride it like I stole it. I want to ride Strada Bianca on it, or Flandrian cobbles.
Where these two bikes also differ is in the stiffness. Now, I've already explained that stiffness has been maintained between the V4 and the V5, but here on the Y1, well, it's been beefed up even more. And that's a good thing, because on faster, flatter roads, bigger riders are going to be pushing even more power. And in the sprints, well, that stiffness is even more of a good thing.
But there is a trade-off though, right? And that's that for lighter riders and on rougher roads, that increased stiffness is less of a positive attribute. And actually the increased compliance that you get from the V5RS is more of an advantage. So think, for example, Tadej Pogačar winning the Tour of Flanders. It wasn't on a V5, it was on the predecessor, the V4RS, but nevertheless he chose that one over the Y1RS because of those cobbles. And actually he chose that one as well to get second on debut at Paris-Roubaix.
Okay, interesting fact for you, Si.
Is this a nerd alert?
Yes, yes indeed it is.
Okay.
Okay, so as standard, these Enve wheels come with a 60-tooth ratchet in the free hub. However, the UAE team actually swapped that out for a 40-tooth ratchet for the lower free hub drag when you're coasting along.
That is actually quite interesting. Any other Enve facts?
Loads. Rims are made in the US.
Okay, we already knew that. Nerd alert over.
Yeah,
Let's move on to something, shall we? Completely different topic, in fact. Let's talk aesthetics. Very personal choice, I know.
Yeah.
Alex. Which one?
V5RS.
Really?
Yeah, honestly. Firstly, I love both these bikes. I just think the Y1RS is just a bit too out there for me.
Really?
Just a little bit too much. I appreciate it, but okay. Over to you?
I would go for that one. I'm not a particularly out there kind of guy, but
No, I didn't think you were.
I like a bike to be a little bit out there. Particularly if I lived somewhere like LA or London, or somewhere like a bit showy in
Somewhere
the bike culture.
very fancy.
Yeah, that bike would make you stand out from the crowd.
It would. You've just really thrown me a curveball, saying I wasn't expecting it from you.
Yeah. I tell you what, today has been an eye-opener more than aesthetics, hasn't
Yeah.
it? Like riding these bikes back to back, the difference between them is really quite stark, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like
there's a big difference between the bikes, and like we are talking about performance race bikes here, right? They're not designed to just cruise down to the shops and get your weekly snacks and stuff.
You would look cool doing it though.
You would look cool doing it. But in my mind, it kind of reminds me of back in the day when I was working and fixing cars, right? It gives me that real race car vibe, honestly. Race cars, so blooming cool. Love it. Everyone would be like, love to be able to have one and drive it around. But that's great when you're on a racetrack. But when you're away from the racetrack, you're like, this is still cool, but not kind of quite what I expected. Like, it's bumpy. Like, it just doesn't quite live up to expectations. Then you go, yeah, maybe the race car isn't for me.
So you're saying the Y1 is faster like a race car,
Yeah.
but some of those compromises are maybe a step too far. What's interesting is that obviously race bikes are not confined to race tracks. I mean, that's the beauty of bike racing, is that they're on the open roads, aren't they? So even though that one is refined for the race track, in inverted commas, it's refined for the open road, whereas this one, I guess, is just more of an all-rounder, really, isn't it? I mean, that's exactly what it's been designed for.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good way to summarise it. Yeah, I like that.
I still feel sorry for Tadej Pogačar after all of this.
I mean, yeah, it's a tough life for him, isn't it?
So tough. I mean, imagine having to win all those races.
My heart bleeds.
I don't think I could cope with that. I really don't. We've got to say a huge thank you to Colnago and Enve for supplying us with the latest bikes, the latest wheels, and all of the insights behind it as well. So big thumbs up.
I think they've managed to make us look cool.
Well, hold on a sec. That's a big statement. Right, okay. On that note, let us know what you think, not about Alex's previous statement, but about these two bikes. Which one would you choose and why? There we go. Get involved in the comment section down below. We'll see you on the next one.
See ya.